All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, year of our Lord 2025, October 14th. And today we are going to do a little bit of the Gavin Ortlund video promoting third wayism. You know, it's not dead yet. You know, you can't say third wayism is dead yet. How could you say that? And, you know, you can't be dunking on Tim Keller. I mean, he's the greatest, as we all know. So let's begin. All right. Well, let's just jump into it. You know, no preambles today. Let's just go. Let's just do it. Yeah, here we go.
War right now is a huge issue. Lots of people are contrasting Tim Keller's approach, sometimes called the third way approach, with more bold approaches like Charlie Kirk's approach. That's been one construct you see. By the way, if you're going to do that, please take into account differences of calling and context. Tim Keller is a pastor in New York City, was a pastor and church planter. Charlie Kirk is more of a political and cultural and religious commentator doing debates on university campuses. He talks about theology as well, but he's got a different calling. You know, it's like, if you're going to compare these two people, it's like saying, you know, Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan, look at them both playing golf. Wow, Tiger Woods is so much better. And you don't mention, you know, actually Michael Jordan wasn't mainly a golf player. He was in the NBA. He was a basketball player. That was his main thing. However,
That's actually a good point. You know, he's making a good point, and I've often talked about that as well. You know, you got to consider that the Bible talks about there's different members of the body. You know, and they all have different functions, but they're all part of the body. Yeah, I think that's really good advice. You know, and I think but the problem though is that you know, really it's people that have callings that don't look like the pastor's calling. You know. And they don't talk like in that pastoral sort of way that, you know, Big Eva says all pastors need to talk and all this kind of stuff. They get, you know, kind of put outside the faith pretty often, you know, and you got to consider this, like, you know, not everybody's calling is the same. Not everybody's role is the same. And, you know, honestly, one of the secrets of having a good life, having a happy life, is to understand what your role is and embrace your role, you know? And so there's room for yahoos on the internet to you know, do what I do. You know, there's room for that, and you got to be accepting of that, because you look at the Bible and you look at all the different characters in the Bible, and people had different personalities, different tones, different moods, different roles, different you know, strategies, but they were working for the Lord, and so, you know, we can have that kind of thing, and so you can be a Michael Foster out there. You could be like Michael Foster and do what he does without getting all of the panties in a bunch of all the you know, Tim Keller style people saying how evil and mean he is and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, I kind of like that point. Obviously, he doesn't apply that point to himself. You know what I mean? Everyone's got to be ironic and peaceful, just like Gavin Ortlund. But you know, it's a good point nonetheless. I mean, just because he's not applying it to himself, it's still a good point.
in this video, what I want to do is assume that you, the viewer, agree with the criticism of third way that is very popular right now. I mean, third way is, it's in tough days right now.
Oh, yeah.
And you think this is just...
Yeah, the charts don't look very good on third wayism. You know what I mean? The charts look like you should probably sell. You know, and that's the thing about charts. You know, chart can't tell you what to do, but it can show you where your risks, you know, likely are. It can give you probabilities, right? So just because you look at the chart and it looks like you should sell, it doesn't mean that the stock's not going to go up. But it means that it probably isn't going to go up, and you just got to weigh your bets accordingly and your probabilities accordingly. But if I was selling, if I was in the market, I'd be selling. I'd be dumping shares of third wayism. That's for sure. I'd be dumping right now. Simple as that. And man, maybe we pick it back up later, you know, to make a nice, cool profit. But if I were you know, looking at a chart of TGC. I'd be selling, baby. That's what it sell all the way.
It's just your patience is totally done. That's the sense I get from people. Is we just need to kill this, bury it, leave it behind, and even just mock it on the way.
And if I was buying stock in ADR, taking a look at the ADR stock, you know, I don't know. There might even be an ADR stock. Don't go buy an ADR stock. I don't even know what it is. But you know, AD Robles, ADR. Get it? See what I did there? ADR. I would. We're in a consolidation period right now, so it's a little choppy. But I think that the charts, the technicals, look like we're poised for a big jump up. We're going to the moon, baby.
As we're walking away from the grave, just nothing but contempt. That's what you get from some quarters. Others not that extreme. I try not to make the extremes representative of everybody, but there's real energy against this right now. I'm trying to understand that. But let me say this in this video. I'm going to assume it's correct, and I'm going to make 3 appeals for, if you're persuaded of that, could I appeal to you to do this as you're leaving third wayism dead in the gutter? Can you please hear these 3 appeals?
I'll hear your appeals. Listen, I'm totally in that. I just told you, I'd be selling, baby. I'd be selling. I'd be selling to guys like you. I'd be selling to guys like you, and making, getting my profits, and leaving you holding the bag. That's what I would be doing right now. So I qualify for this. I'm gonna listen to his appeals. I'm gonna take them very seriously.
The spirit of this is, I think Christians can actually sometimes be of good faith and have disagreements about these questions, and how we conduct our disagreements matters for the sake of the kingdom of God. So hear me out, that, even if we disagree, we can still maybe think about how we might, and I'll listen to your appeals too in the comments.
All right,
or
great.
If people make response videos,
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Number 1, please don't caricature third wayism. If it needs to be critiqued, let it be critiqued at its best. If it needs to be exposed as bad and then killed and left behind, let it be exposed, killed, and left behind through steel manning, not through straw manning. I see a lot of rank caricatures of third wayism. The idea that it is moral equivalency, the idea that it means detachment, like we just avoid the issues, where it's cowardice, retreating, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
For years, proponents of third wayism and others like other constructs like this, if you don't like that language, fine, have been addressing this and clarifying this and saying this is not what it is. Tim Keller, for example, has always said it is not about finding a middle ground. It is about nothing other than following the Bible, no matter what, even if the world sees you as an extremist.
Yeah. That's all well and good. That quotation from Tim Keller, that's all well and good. But here's the problem, though, Gavin. And I assume you're going to take me seriously as well, because I'm taking you seriously. I like this quote. Yeah, I do. I like this quote. I think that's good and smart and right and wise and all of that. But the problem is Tim Keller is not interpreted in isolation. You know what I mean? His little quotables that he gives you, that's a piece. That's a data point. We look at that. But the thing is, there's also other materially important aspects of Tim Keller, because we've seen Tim Keller in action. You know what I mean? We've seen him be interviewed by liberal media personalities, and about homosexuality and other kinds of things. We've heard from people, liberals, that have gone to his church and talked about what it was like being there, and how they were there for years, and then were surprised that one day he said something that was more biblically accurate about one of the most popular sins in the world, and they were shocked that it's one of those churches, but yet they were there for years and they hadn't heard anything from it. And so it really doesn't appear, even though this quotation is very nice, and maybe you'd like us to only consider his notable quotables, the problem is that we have seen too much. That's the thing. We can't just say, oh, wow, he's right here, but then also pretend not to see how he conducted himself all the time. It certainly seemed like, based on his activities, that he was not willing to be seen as an extremist or anything like that. He wanted to be seen a particular way, which definitely seems softer on certain sins, and definitely seem more amenable to certain liberal politics that are ungodly, and all of these kinds of things. And so it's a very nice quotation, you know what I mean? But obviously I could show you clip after clip after clip after clip after clip of him actually not acting this way. So there you go.
And if the world sees you as an extremist.
So what's a person's belief? This is the thing. So you put this is what third wayism is not, right? We can see the notable quotables, and then But the thing is, what does a person really believe? What they say or how they act? What they say or what they do? We've talked about this recently on the channel. If you say you don't believe that the Federal Reserve System is good and the dollar's going to go to zero, but all of your investments are in dollars, do you really believe it, or are you just trying to present a certain image, right? It's your actions actually matter more than what you say. And as a Christian, Gavin, of course, you know that your actions actually matter a lot more than what you say. You could say you believe in Christ. Well, good for you. The demons say that too, right? But it's what you do, right? There you go.
Christopher Watkin wrote this excellent book, Biblical Critical Theory. It's very clear that third wayism is not splitting the difference between the major political parties that are currently operating. Not only is that not the way forward, that's actually wandering from the faith. Rather, the goal is nothing other than letting the Bible set the table. The Bible does not fit into the modern world. It will rearrange the furniture, so to speak.
Right, but reality is right wing, right? And so it's very clear that though the Republicans aren't great in every way, and they're wrong about certain things and all of that, the places where they're wrong is not because the Bible is more like what the Democrats are promoting. It's actually because the Bible is actually further right than where they are. And so, the way this works itself out in so many of these third way commentators is, well, Democrats are kind of right over here. And that's how it works out. I mean, you can say all day long that that's not what you're doing. But, your notable quotable says that's not what you're doing. But in practice, that's what we see you doing. So what is actually third wayism? Is it what they say it is? Or is it how they act and what they do? Well, I'm more inclined to believe that your actions actually tell me a lot more than your notable quotables where you're trying to sound like Yoda.
Acts makes this point very clearly that we should not stay above the fray. We should not make it sound like there's moral equivalency between the two parties. There isn't. J.D. Greer, by the way, Griffin Gullidge is the one who drew my attention to that older article. All of these articles are years old. So you'd hope that...
Griffin Gullidge is one of the slimiest, most disgusting, despicable people in the Southern Baptist Convention. There's no question about it. And we talked about it before. I've had personal interactions with him. He's slimy, very slimy guy.
People would interact with this stuff. It's been out there forever. But a lot of the ways you hear third wayism represented, you're like, that's not a, you can tell they're not trying to put it in a way that a proponent of this could recognize. But I was going to say, Griffin Gullidge is the one who drew my attention to that.
And maybe that's true. Maybe you guys don't even know what you're doing, right? Maybe you guys really think that you're doing this perfect third wayism that's so great, go ahead, keep buying the stock. Okay, I'll sell it. I'll sell it to you, If someone's buying, somebody's selling, right? Yeah, maybe. But the thing is, I think you need to take a good look in the mirror. even with some of the people that are criticizing you that you don't think are being in good faith, you know what I mean? In fact, I think you should take a look at the people that are not acting in good faith more seriously sometimes, because I think that when they're acting not in good faith, they are trying to hone in on something. When people criticize me not in good faith, I take them seriously. I mean, I don't let it bother me that much, but I take them seriously. What are they actually keying in on here? What are they actually thinking here? And I think it's helpful sometimes to know what your worst enemies are thinking and why they think it. I think it helps you.
Another article of Trevin's in a tweet, and I thought he made a great point about the danger of a warmed over and politically flavored homogeneous unit principle. If you don't know what that is, Google it. Great insight there. J.D. Greer has an article up at the Gospel
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And it's based on his new book where he talks about this, and he's very clear. It is not that both sides are morally equivalent. And he talks about the particular evils enshrined in the Democratic Party. If you disagree with all of these people, if you disagree with this whole way of thinking, fine, but interact with these clarifications rather than continue to articulate third wayism as in a way that no one who holds to that would recognize. What is third wayism? In a nutshell, it is very simple. The thinking is this. Contemporary conservative politics, especially in the United States, has important differences from historic Christianity. And even if those differences are not as dire as the political left, they are still important enough that they are worth pointing out. From our perspective, this is not really a third way. It's just the first way. We just want to follow Jesus, and it is that simple. Second appeal. And
all right, stop. So I have heard your first appeal, and I reject it completely. I reject it because what you're asking me to do, Gavin, and I assure you that I am speaking in good faith. You might not believe me, but I am. What you're asking me to do is to say, look. Here's what we're telling you, third wayism. Don't look at what we're doing. Don't look at how we behave. No. I'm telling you, this is third wayism. Forget all what we're doing. Forget what Tim Keller says over here. No, this is the definitive Tim Keller. What he writes in his books, that's the definitive Tim Keller, right? What he tweeted right here, this is what he believes. Forget how he acts. Forget the many media interviews that you've seen of him. No, don't even look at that. That's not third wayism. What third wayism is what we tell you it is. Forget our behavior. Don't look at how we vote. Don't look at any of that. Don't look at that stuff. Hey, I know we've got tons of conferences out there and Black Lives Matter, buttons on our social media at all the appropriate times. I understand, we were all for jailing everyone that doesn't take the COVID vaccine. I mean, don't even look at that. That's not, no, you're straw manning us. We're telling you what's what. This is, in my opinion, Gavin, this is wizardry. You're trying to wizard us. And we're not going to go for we used to go for the wizardry. We don't go for the wizardry anymore. You can't just speak to us your incantations and misdirect us and then do whatever you want over here. That's not how it works, That's not how we're not doing it like that anymore. We're not falling for the misdirection like that anymore. We used to. I understand why you want me to do that again, because back then it was a lot easier for you, but now we know what's going on. All right? We don't know everything, but we know a lot. So I've heard your appeal as one of your target audiences. I totally have thrown third wayism into the gutter. I promise you, I am your target audience. Okay? And I heard your appeal, and I reject it. I am unwilling to just hear you tell me what third wayism is without looking at your behavior as well. Even that J.D. Greer quote was hilarious. Well, the Democratic Party has all these problems, and we're gonna boldly proclaim. And then anytime anyone actually boldly proclaims the truth against what they're up to, well, that's not. You have the gospel centrality too. We gotta have the gospel centrality too, and the loving and all that stuff. They're always shut down. They're always shut down. And the only things that are boldly proclaimed against are the alleged sins on the conservative side, on the right side, which oftentimes aren't even sins. Oftentimes, the conservatives are wrong because they're not right-wing enough. So, in any case, no, the answer is absolutely no. I've heard your first point. I'm looking forward to your second point. But as it comes to your first appeal, the answer is definitely no. We are not going to allow ourselves to be fooled by your wizardry anymore. That's it. That's the end of it. I'm still selling, baby. In fact, let me set a nice stop loss.
Flows right out of that is beware of the no enemies to my right mentality. Now, most of you get this. Most good faith people who disagree with me on these questions, thank you. Truly, thank you. You agree with this. You get this. You're not going to push back on this point, most of you. But what I think is more dangerous is those who will say, and maybe you've been feeling this already, is, okay, that's true. Technically, there's some bad stuff on the right, but it's not a big deal. There's a few people over there that need a nudge, but that's not the real threat. Stop putting the focus. Stop acting like this is something that's big that we need to talk about, and so on and so forth. And let me make an appeal, if that's how you feel. I understand.
I'm ready for the appeal.
First, I would just say we got to remember all of us are affected by the algorithms. All of us. Okay, so all I'm saying from this point is we need to listen to each other for the experiences others have had. Believe me, if you can.
It's a joke.
Believe me, I really am trying to listen, and I'm learning from people who disagree with me. I'm saying, okay, I got to see the world through their eyes. What experiences have you had?
I'm ready to tell you.
The algorithms tend to confirm our biases. And so we need to be aware of, okay, I got to listen to what other people are saying because it might not all be coming up on my feed. I might think something's not a big deal because I don't see it, but the reason I don't see it, I'm not omniscient. It may not be served up to me through the algorithm. Many of us in real life have had pastoral experiences, church experiences, and relational experiences that convince us that, yes, there are some things on the right that are a problem.
Oh,
There are
brother.
various forms of overreaction against wokeness, unhealthy forms of hypermasculinity working out in a marriage relationship that's really toxic and bad, undersensitivity to the sin of racial prejudice, including even anti-Semitism, explicitly
There's the
so in
big
some
one.
circles. I wish I could say these were small problems that don't even merit mentioning. But unfortunately, especially spending time on the internet, interacting with young men, seeing what they're being influenced by, yes, these are real issues. Let me mention two that I think are particularly increasing and need to be addressed.
Anti-Semitism, for
First, the
sure.
sheer amount of lack of charity in discourse.
Yeah.
There is a real viciousness to the way discussions happen. And in online spaces right now, especially on X, the cancel tactics of the far left are being mimicked in the reverse direction by the far right.
Yeah.
And there's a certain demographic of people that will swarm and then seek to utterly discredit a person. And the people being targeted are often pretty conservative, but they represent a threat or a challenge in some way or another, and so they are effectively canceled. It's ugly, it's not edifying, it's not constructive. There's a lot of name calling, pretty gross and sexual insults at times, and then those things get defended as though that was courageous. And a lot of times there's just sheer lying and slandering.
Man, like I welcome to the internet. I mean, I don't know. I've said this before, but like a lot of these kinds of comments, they're mystifying to me. They really are, because ever since I was a kid, I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm just saying this is just the truth. Like this is nothing new. You know what I mean? You play Call of Duty, you're in the lobby. I mean, you hear this kind of stuff all the time from the beginning of time, at least of Call of Duty time. He acts like this is like some growing issue and all this. This is the internet. This is the internet. What the internet is like when you're not constantly being censored. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but this is just, I don't know what to tell you. This is just how it is. Right? And then he starts talking. It's hard to respond to this because he's talking about cancel culture and people that are actually conservatives are being canceled. Like, I don't know what he's talking about there, so it's hard to respond to each individual person. But I mean, Gavin, have you considered that maybe people that have abhorrent views and cheer at the death of Charlie Kirk and stuff like that? Like, have you considered maybe they should be canceled? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like you make your bed, you lie in it. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Have you considered that maybe certain things, when they're done to good people, are bad, but when they're actually done to bad people, aren't bad? Have you considered that? I mean, I don't know. It just seems to me like yeah, I was upset with cancel culture when somebody gets canceled for saying, there's only two genders, and then you get canceled. Like, it's not good to get canceled because that's the truth. It is an obvious truth, right? But someone whose mission and job in life is to tell you that there's 1,000 genders and you got to have the demons reading books to children, and that's their whole mission, right? They're gonna, any organization they go into, they're gonna be pushing them in that direction. Is it automatic that they should be able to have a job anywhere? No. They should be shunned by society. Some people should be shunned by society. That's, to me, that's so obvious, right? Like even in the beginning, it wasn't that people were being shunned. It was that good people were being shunned for saying good things and doing good things. But when bad people are shunned for doing bad things and continuing to do bad things unrepentantly, and they can't get a job at the public library, that's actually a good thing. That's a good thing. That's how a functioning society works. That's godly. I don't know, like, have you considered that, Gavin? I mean, I'm waiting for the appeal here. The no enemy to the right thing. I mean, I could understand a version of that being something you'd want to warn against, but the examples that you're using here, I'm not against that. No, I'm not against that. I'm just not. Let's continue.
Slander that is utterly disgraceful. And it's totally appropriate to say, I'm broadly historically conservative. I'm pro-life. I'm going to stand against the far left. I just want to be a faithful Christian, but I'm allowed to talk about these problems on the right, these sins of speech, for example, this lack of charity and disagreement, and not shrug that off. If I were to shrug off sins of
Right,
speech,
but one of the problems, though, is the matter of proportion that we see. And again, this is another example of watching what you do and then watching what you say. Because sure, you're like, yeah, I'll stand against abortion, and I'll stand against all of this, and the excesses of the Democrats. I'll boldly stand against it. But when we see you bold, it's usually stuff like, you're not being charitable. That's when you get your teeth out, right? That's when you get out of bed. That's what drives you, it feels like. That's when I see your actions, is what I'm saying. And I'm not saying you specifically, Gavin. I'm talking about your buddies, your group, your mob. You know what I mean? Your team. When the claws come out, it's because of things like, oh, you're not being charitable. You've got a potty mouth, right? Like, okay, sure, those are problems. But we need a little sense of proportion here. I mean, literally, the Democrats are wanting more babies to be killed. They want it to be totally legal, protected by the Constitution, and they promote that aggressively. And you're like, I'm pro-life. Then somebody says a naughty word, and you're like, rah! You know, like that's how it goes. It's about proportion. So I'm not saying you can't say, oh, you shouldn't use that kind of language. I mean, a lot of my friends say that too. In fact, I don't use that kind of language myself. I don't spend much time policing people's language. That's just not my role. I'm not interested in doing that. But, my friend John Harris does. He talks about decorum, and he talks about being an honorable man and these kinds of things. And that's something that he's very big on. So he talks about it. I don't have a problem with him talking about it. He's right. He's 100% right. But he's got a sense of proportion about it. You know what I mean? That's like the claws don't come out with that stuff, but not the other stuff. I mean, that's the problem that we have with guys like you, that there's no sense of proportion whatsoever. You know what I mean? Hindus are worshiping demons in our streets. That seems like a bigger deal than somebody saying a naughty word. They're both sins, they're both problems, but we have to have a sense of proportion here. And so again, this no enemies to the right thing, we'll get to more of it, I guess, later, but it strikes me as a very similar thing to the first appeal that you gave. It's like, don't look at my actions, just look at what I'm telling you. I'm very concerned about this language. Okay, great, that's wonderful. But your actions all say that you're way over concerned. You've got no sense of proportion. The only boldness that you have is against these people. And it seems like it almost appears like nitpicking, because it's like your boldness is against the right because of things like lack of charity. Problem, yes, but it seems nitpicky in the face of all these massive problems on the left, which you're timid as a little kitten drinking little milk from his little saucer. That's the problem. We're not going to ignore your actions in favor of your words, because your words don't speak as loud as your actions. So I'm not willing to do that. But let's continue. You still got a little bit more on the... You know what? I got to stop here. I just got to stop. I got a phone call in 2 minutes. And looks like we're about halfway done with the video. So maybe we'll do a part 2 and finish this up. But so far, I'm still selling. It's as simple as that. I don't see any way that third wayism is going to survive the gutter. In any case, hope you found this video helpful. God bless.